All right.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 17 of the Force Choke podcast with...
Introduce yourselves.
Oh, okay.
You are?
We're going, okay. Izzy. I'm Izzy.
I'm Tim.
Tim.
I'm Sarah.
And I'm Lewis. And this is our guest.
Trent Westbrook.
Very good. Very good.
Hey. Thank y'all for tuning in. Before we get into the show, I just want to remind you guys to that we have a Patreon page. You donate $1 and you get to see hours of behind-the-scenes videos of us getting ready for our shows.
And Lewis cooking.
Yeah.
Cringy stuff. Great. Great.
Let's see. Also, don't forget to like us on Facebook. We have Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, YouTube, Patreon, and the Force Choke at...
Did you really make pork.com?
No.
Okay.
That's why I was like, I can't do it.
I did not make a Ford.com.
Oh, there it is.
I think you gotta be kidding, right?
Is this real?
Okay, at the Force Choke at tripod.com. All right, let's get into the show. It's triple special, well, double special. Until we can get Micah.
It's a triple Micah.
Yeah.
He's watching us.
It's our super special Friday the 13th episode, and we have Trent here, who is an official Star Wars artist. Tim,
All right, yeah, so let's get into it. Trent, thank you for being here, man. We really appreciate it. First of all, for you guys who are listening, this is Trent Westbrook, and he is an artist. I just want to give us your title, please, of what you do and who you are.
I'm just I officially do art on the Star Wars license for Topps collectible cards.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love it. And actually, right behind Tim over here is some of Trent's artwork. And Trent was telling us a little bit about his, like what happens, and we'll get more into that.
Oh yeah, so lots of behind the scenes, what goes on.
Yes, absolutely. We have some questions,
stuff that we don't get to see.
Yeah, absolutely. But
speaking of what we did get to see was, so we'll talk about the new Star Wars trailers.
Happened.
Came out on Monday.
It came out on Monday. I thought it was coming out this Sunday.
On Monday.
Last Monday.
This past Monday.
Yeah.
No.
During the football halftime game show with the Chicago Bears versus the Vikings. They had the Stormtroopers, storm the field.
That's cool.
And I thought that was
I didn't know that happened. I was at work.
Oh, that's
yeah.
Work. Never mind.
I wonder.
That's pretty awesome.
Trent, did you get to watch it during the halftime show?
Sure did.
Oh yeah. I thought that was cool. The way they brought out all the stormtroopers and First Order.
The First Order,
right?
Was it the First Stormtroopers? Yeah.
Or First Order, yeah. So I thought that was really cool. So you think we should play the trailer for everybody who's watching?
Yeah.
Let's watch it before we start talking about.
Okay.
Here
we go.
Theories.
You hadn't. Did you see the whole thing?
I saw the whole thing.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah,
thought you had.
just this big.
Oh.
Yeah, I saw it on my phone at work.
Oh, it was
Yeah, it
just
was teeny tiny.
Okay, well here we go, guys. Let's see the official trailer for The Last Jedi. Wait. Here we go.
I saw raw, untamed power. And beyond that, something truly special. Something inside me has always been there. When I was awake, I need help. were meant to be. This is not going to go the way you think. Fulfill. I need someone to show me my place in all this.
Oh my god. So Tim,
Yes.
you
I
got-
nearly cried when I saw that trailer.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Is he
Just when
actually
you look,
right?
I actually cried.
like he's scared now. It's like,
Yes.
That's when I was just, oh, this is real.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I got chills, kind of little tinglies. You know what I mean? I mean, I don't know how old you are, Trent. But I'm gonna be 45.
I just turned 45.
Right. So I mean, you know, I grew up from a kid till now. You know,
Absolutely.
and I text our group here. I said,
Snoke is Greedo. I'm sorry.
that's not what I.
I'm reading
texted.
one of the comments here.
I texted the group and I said, if Luke or Leia dies, you're gonna see a grown man cry. Oh man! So I know Tim. We've had some theories. You know, we've had fans
I
commenting
did
on
have a
our
theory.
Facebook and our Instagram and all kinds of stuff, different theories, what they think, who Snoke is or who this is and that is. And so, I mean, you hit us up because you're kind of in charge of the news, notes, and theories.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and start off with one of my theories off the trailer that was, I guess, proven wrong already.
Okay.
By Micah sharing one of his pictures on Facebook.
He went like that. He burst the bubble.
Kind of glad he did though.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't want to see it because my theory has to do with Luke dying, and the reason why I say that is because in the trailer, and I think I talked to you guys about it earlier, where at the beginning of the trailer, Luke is talking to Rey about showing her the way of the Force or where she needs to go, or guiding her.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the trailer, we get Rey, but this time it's in a dark. You see, you have a dark background. When Luke was talking, it was a light background. When Rey's talking, she's saying that she needs someone to show her the way. After Luke had just told her that he's going to show her the way,
Mm-hmm.
why would she again? It would be redundant if she had to go and say that again
Yeah.
after he just said it. So why would she tell him like, okay, I need someone to show me the way? He already offered.
To
You know what I
show.
mean? So did somewhere in there, he lost his life and now she needs someone else to show her the way? You know, that was my first take off the trailer. That was the first thing I saw
Mm-hmm.
as far as like Luke's life goes.
Yeah. Trent, I mean, what do you think? How did you feel about the trailer?
Oh, I really liked the trailer, but I've got a huge theory about the whole thing now. I don't know if I should say anything.
I mean, if you feel like you should say it. Say it, like,
I mean, we're interested.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we're really all big on. We all come with our theories and thoughts, and you know.
I think the
kind of-
trailer's so like misdirection. Like,
Yeah.
anything
I think the
can
trailer's
happen.
all about misdirection.
Mhm.
I think they're trying to push you in a particular direction so that when you get to the movie, it's still going to be a big surprise.
Yeah.
This is just my theory. I have no idea if this is right because I've never been told anything.
Mm-hmm.
And going back to Force Awakens, from what we know that Kylo seemed to know about Rey before he even saw her. there was little hints throughout the movie he already knew about her, like what girl.
Yeah.
And we also obviously saw the scene where Rey is left on Jakku. And all that. When we get to the point in the trailer where they meet each other, I'm wondering if Luke I have a feeling Luke put her there, and I think she was a point of contention that might have brought the fall of Luke's new Jedi Order to come apart, with Kylo pulling on one end and Luke pulling on the other. I think she was the dividing point because Snoke everyone seems to know about Rey, and that she seems to be. I get the impression Snoke's not speaking to Kylo in that trailer. He's speaking to Rey, that he's known about her all this time.
You're talking about when he says, when
I've seen such power.
Oh yeah.
And
then he sees something special.
He sees something special. I think he's talking to Rey. I think she's almost, and I think that's the reason why Luke put her on Jakku, because of this unhinged power that he sees in her. He said he feared it then, but obviously not as much as he should have, and now he fears it now. Now he knows who she is. I have a feeling he rejects Rey. He rejects teaching her the Force for that reason. And my feeling is by the end of this movie, Snoke's obviously going to have Rey, because we've seen that in the trailer.
Yeah.
How she gets to him, we don't know that yet. But I have a feeling Kylo is going to redeem himself and ask Luke for help at the end, and that's how the movie ends. While Snoke has Rey.
Ooh.
That's very possible. I had like a couple of things like off of what you're saying. Before I forget, because I might forget the second one. Give me a pen.
Write it down to
number one. And then number two is, oh my gosh, I'm already forgetting.
Oh goodness.
Oh no.
So I was talking.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I'll get back to it.
Yeah, get back to it. I was talking to one of our viewers / listeners that happens to work with us. Actually, everybody here at work for HEB. Okay. And, that's kind of how we started this podcast. We were all fans, and we were like, hey, why don't we get together and just start talking about Star Wars, Cool. And one of our coworkers, I was talking with them in the break room, and, almost right in the middle of the trailer, Luke says, this is not going to go how you think it's going to go. And then I was wondering, I was like, are they telling us that?
Yeah.
Are they directly telling us this is not going to go the way you think it's going to go?
Yeah.
Deliberately. I was like, man, they're pretty slick.
That's how I felt off the Force Awakens trailer. I think was it the Force Awakens trailer when they said we're to make things right, or it's going to make things right. And I felt like they're talking about the prequels weren't that great, so we're here to make it good. That's one of those things.
That's quite a possibility, Tim.
Yeah, I would take that as an inside joke.
Yeah. Tim, he stuck it and then twisted it. But what were you jotting down, Tim?
Oh yeah, so
I love your theories, man.
So against what you were saying actually earlier about how you think Snoke was talking to Rey about the power, that he's seen the power of something special in her. I think that he's talking to Kylo. And the reason why, well, part of it, I could be misdirected, of course, because we were just talking about that in the trailer. But in the trailer, when he talks about the power, it's like, I seen the power in you, and then you see it's 3 shots of Kylo. Before he starts talking, it's Kylo first at a base, and you see like the weapons. He's looking through a window, and you can see his artillery in the background, what they're going to use. And then it goes to Snoke talking, and then it has him marching with troopers, and then picking up his lightsaber. And all while they're showing that, Snoke says this about Kylo. That's what I think. It's about Kylo. And when he says that he's seen the power, I don't think that he can say that about Rey, because he hasn't. Oh, even if Snoke knew Rey then, like back then when she was a kid, like she was powerless. There was nothing. Like she couldn't have had. I don't think he saw anything in her.
Because she was young.
She didn't get. She wasn't awakened yet. She wasn't awoke. Oh, or however you want to say it. She wasn't woke. Stay woke.
Stay woke.
He was still sleeping.
So yeah, I
The
think
Force is at rest.
I think that he is talking to Kylo when he says that, and then when he sees something special in him, that's probably because that specialness is Rey. That he has a connection to Rey. I think that's the special part about it. I think that it's probably, and it's if Micah, I don't know if it was Micah that we talked about the relationship between Kylo and Rey and them being related, brother and sister. So that's my take on that part. What's
Micah
Nate's
said,
saying?
Nate said, can we talk about how Kylo's throwing another hissy fit? And Micah was like, Nate, don't make me come home and force choke off.
Oh my God. Nate. Nate, you sly dog. Nate did post something on our, was it Instagram? We have an Instagram kind of like message thing.
Oh,
kind of private
the chat.
message.
the group
Chat, right? Group chat. And so I'm going to give Nate credit for this. I don't know if he put it together. Nate's one of our former guests and friends of the show. He actually posted on there, all the like movie posters throughout from episode 1 to now, and showing these movie posters showing the villain is always kind of towards the back in the shadows.
Mm-hmm.
And in this movie, The Last Jedi, Luke happens to be the one in the back.
Oh,
in
yeah.
the shadow. So he was like kind of like, I think, insinuating maybe Luke's the villain in this one. Nate, tell me if I'm wrong.
8 movie posters, every single background is a villain.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have
Darth Maul, Darth Vader,
Yeah.
mostly. Yeah. So,
and Anakin was one of them, right?
yeah, I think so. Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Mm.
So, I don't know. What do you think about that? Can you handle that?
I don't think I could.
No.
No. I would cry.
If you look at what
Maybe.
Luke's wearing in the trailer, like it's dark. He all has black cloaks. I mean, it's all dark clothing. It's what did I tell you? It's like kind of like what Count Dooku's what he would wear.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of like that. So
I don't know, Tim.
he's dark side.
No.
I have a feeling he's riding the line.
The
Maybe.
writing.
I have a feeling he's riding the line, and he may, by the end of the movie, appear to have gone to the dark side. I have a feeling, but I think he's riding the line. I don't think he's, and I think that's why he's so conflicted in what we've seen in the trailers, and that's one of the reasons why he thinks the Jedi need to stand. I think he sees both sides of the problem as far as the balance.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
And I have a feeling he, like I said, I think he's riding the line on that, and he may end up for a moment to do, because one of the things they have said is that Snoke is not Sith.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I've heard that.
So where does Snoke fall in the balance
Mm-hmm.
between it? It's obviously not something gray in the middle, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But he's not Sith, nor is Kylo. So are we going to see just a brief transition at the most for Luke to do what he has to, and maybe it is to turn to the dark side to oppose what's going on with Snoke?
True. I mean, maybe Luke sees that as a necessity in a way. Oh my God. No.
The one thing I have heard about this movie from a lot of sources is that this movie is supposed to be extremely polarizing between the fans. You're either going to really like what they've done, or you're going to be very upset with what they've done. So it makes me wonder.
I'm hoping, I don't want to say I'm hoping, Trent, but I may be upset what they do, but I think that upsetness is gonna. Let me put it this way: when Han Solo died, I was mad. I teared up. I'm not gonna lie, I did, and I watched it at the theater like 5 or 6 times. And each time, I knew it was gonna happen, and I still teared up. So whatever they do may be upsetting, but if it's gonna be anything like the trailers that they put out, the first 2 trailers, I think it's gonna be amazing. I think the director seems like he knows what he's doing. He knows what fans want to see. I mean, it seems like he's a fan himself. You know what I mean? I think he even said, right, that not to watch this trailer because, he wants everybody to kind of go in fresh. Yeah. But, I mean, it may be upsetting, but I think it's going to be awesome.
Well, I think it's better, and I think that was probably one of the complaints about Force Awakens was to go against the grain of what's been going on through all the films up to this moment.
Yeah. And
maybe that's what Rian Johnson is doing here. He's going to go completely against the grain from what we have any expectation of.
Yeah.
I think the biggest complaint, even people are even worried about this one, is that this one's going to be The Empire Strikes Back, or The Force Awakens was the New Hope of this trilogy.
Yeah.
And you see things like with the walkers and everything, you're like, okay, we're going to have
another Empire.
But how is he going to turn that on his head? And it sounds like he is.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, because I asked the girls specifically, I said, how would y'all feel if there was another Death Star? And they were both like, And I got scared, so I just moved the conversation along. I would just got off of that conversation. So, no, I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed the trailer. I mean, usually my wife goes to bed real early. My wife is not a big Star Wars fan. I'm embarrassed to say that. But she does. She's a big supporter of our show. She lets us do this. You know what I mean? Every once in a while. So thanks to her for letting us do this, and she goes and hangs out with us at doing Star Wars stuff and all that. So she stayed up with me to watch the trailer. She usually goes to bed very early, and so she stayed up to watch it. And at the very end, when Kylo Ren extends his hand, she's like, "Wait a minute, aren't they mad at each other or something like that?" So they hooked her. They got her. So and she's not, like I said, she's not a fan, but she kind of gets the whole who Anakin is, who's Darth Vader, and all that stuff. But I think fans like on her level, I think it kind of captures their kind of interest. Like, man, I wonder what's going to happen. Wasn't she and him just fighting? Mm-hmm. And now he's like, hey, come with me. Quick, it appears to be
the
appearance. You know what I mean? That drama. So yeah, so I'm thinking, even
like Real Housewives.
Did you watch that?
Specifically Atlanta?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just throw it out there.
You liar. Yes, you do.
That's the one I remember.
Oh, my goodness. Wow.
Who is he sticking out the hand out to, and why would he want to help somebody? He's not a person to help. He's mostly deceiving. The only person he ever said that he'd help was Rey.
I think he's reaching his hand out to Luke.
That's what I was going to say. Trent beat me to it. I think you're absolutely right.
I think he's reaching his hand out to Luke. And I think that's the tree behind them burning.
Oh God! Trent, he said it. He said it. Look at what you did to Tim. No. That was overload for Tim. We have to take an hour break. Oh God! You just tore Tim right back.
Sorry. Just mentioned.
That was so good.
Oh, that was good. That's some good stuff right there. Oh my goodness. Wow. Yeah, you just turned the show right on its side there. And we've actually, this is our 17th episode, and we've been doing this since, was it January? The beginning of the year? January, right, Tim?
Yes.
Right? And
Yes.
I think Tim is the one that actually began talking about before, was this right after, I forgot which movie it was. Rogue, right?
What?
You were starting to talk already about a force tree and, what that was all about and theories about it. I think you're the one that
actually, I think I brought that up before.
Maybe you did. I mean,
yeah.
and he had been talking about, a force tree. I'm like, force tree? I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
And because he was doing some research, because he's our kind of like our news guy. He kind of kicks us off on the news, and he brought that, and I was like, force tree? What is that? And I never heard of that. And I mean, I've been a Star Wars fan my whole life, and so. I know that the force tree is near and dear to his heart. And I think that it gets destroyed.
It's such an old piece of history.
Do you remember? Did you ever play Mortal Kombat?
Sure.
Yeah. You just like.
That's fatality.
Fatality.
I was good at it, obviously. Sorry.
Triple combo.
That's how I felt. The tree dying.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, that was.
I'll go for a friendship next time.
Oh my goodness, good stuff. Well, ladies, I mean, what did y'all think about the trailer now that you saw it on
the big screen?
I saw it on the big screen.
I love it, but I'm afraid. Like I got goosebumps cut.
Oh, there you go. Michael said that I brought it up on the very first episode, actually.
That's right. Yeah.
There's comments you should read.
Oh, okay.
But
Tim
I
has
got
permission.
goosebumps whenever it was Kylo Ren and he was talking about killing the past. I think you and I talked about this.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got his button or his finger on the button, getting ready to shoot stuff, and it shows Leia. And I'm just like, no.
I know,
Just
that was
please
me
don't.
too. I was
Yeah.
like sitting at the edge of it. No, oh my god. But I mean, I kind of expected that. Sometime soon.
Yeah, it's gonna have to happen. I don't want it to be.
I mean,
We don't necessarily know that's how it's going to play out.
That's
yeah.
I know
What
how it's
if he
gonna play
changes his
out.
mind?
I know exactly how it's going to play out.
Do you?
Yes.
I want to.
Remember how? What's that?
I want to bring up something or Nate actually brought up again. Not again, but Nate brought up, just to bring his name up, because Nate has a lot of cool thoughts and theories, and he actually said, maybe Trent, you can chime in on this. He says, we see Rey, breaking ground open in that one scene, and he says, how powerful can Snoke be with him holding Rey at bay, like kind of like seems like bending her back,
Yeah.
and so that's in itself is like, wow, how powerful is Snoke, to be able to do that.
I think there's some history of Snoke that we're going to eventually find out. Because
Mhm.
they obviously Luke and Snoke know each other from somehow. I'm wondering if this all has something to do with the academy that he was trying to build back.
Could be, yeah.
That they somehow knew each other, and somehow there was a moment of contention where they all split apart,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the reason why the academy was destroyed.
Yeah, very true. Very true. That's quite the possibility. I'm wondering if we're going to get a couple more flashbacks like we did in, The Force Awakens, which I liked. It was really, back in the original trilogy, I guess it may have been, technologically difficult, a little bit more difficult for them to, when they do visions, it's kind of like Luke says what he saw, you know what I mean? Or now it's actually, Rey, we see what she's seeing in The Force Awakens, which I really appreciated, you know what I mean? It was really neat. So I'm hoping and wondering if they're going to give us some more flashbacks or maybe visions in this movie to kind of maybe show us, who Snoke may be, or, if he's not somebody we already know, just a little bit more background, little snippet backgrounds of who or what he is.
I had one idea, and I haven't. Sorry, I feel like I'm talking a lot.
No, that's why
I'm always working, so I don't really get to talk to anybody about this stuff. In the original vision of Force Awakens, when Rey sees Luke with R2 putting his hand on R2 right there. And we see that from the back now in the trailer.
Yes, we do.
Is it possible that's not a memory but a vision of the future?
Who brought that up?
Is that because there's a bunch of domed temples on Octu, and that's what it looks like. What's burning in that? So, is that the destruction of the last Jedi temple on Octu?
It very well could
because she had a vision of seeing Kylo in the forest before she ever actually fought him.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, because it was the snow, and then he kind of came out.
So she was kind of going back and forth between the past and the future. It seemed like. So when I saw that, I was like, that structure looks kind of similar to those dome structures that we already saw on Octu. I'm wondering. I don't know.
That could very well be. One of the things that I was thinking myself. I don't know if I spoke this out loud to anybody, but I was like, what happens if? Because it looks like whether it's Rey or Luke, there's like these stacks of books with the Jedi emblem or insignia on it, and it looks like somebody's like putting their hand on it. What if somehow Kylo comes to Octu and takes those books, or there's a holocron in there, or something of that nature, and that would throw all this into a crazy whirlwind, because now if he has all this information, does he need Snoke anymore? Does he need to be taught by Snoke or Luke? Yeah, you know what I mean? And maybe he wants to take, whether it's, I guess it would have to be Rey, and make her his apprentice or something like that.
And maybe he also has an understanding also. He's already been told by his own father, Snoke's going to break you as soon as he's done with you.
Yeah.
Maybe Snoke's whole purpose is to get Rey to replace him like any other Sith has in the past. Maybe Rey is the whole point, just like Anakin was the whole point for Palpatine.
Yeah, absolutely. That very well could be.
And maybe Kylo understands that. He goes, well, maybe I need to save myself and go another direction. That's why he reaches out to Luke.
That's true. That's a lot of good stuff. A lot of good stuff. Yeah. So, it's really, really, really awesome stuff. Hello. But, we're doing a podcast. But, no, some really great theories there, Trent. I really, appreciate you interacting with us like this. Another great guest. All our guests have been great so far. And that's what we wanted. Just throw it out there. What could possibly have? What's up, Tim?
Nate made me laugh. He said Hayden Christensen needs to teach Kylo how to hair flick his way back to the light side.
Everybody, give Nate a hand.
That was great. I love that. Yes.
Without the hand, you Oh my goodness, that's hilarious. Well,
what's up?
Go Tim.
I was gonna add to his thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
About Kylo getting with Luke, and then Snoke trying to turn Rey, or make Rey being the one that he really wants. One of my theories is that Snoke in the trailer is not okay. We do get the shot of him with his hand extended and then Rey bending backwards, right? But before that, he says, "Fulfill your destiny," and but he says it before the shot with Rey. He says it he's still with his hand out and then his eyes. And then we get the shot with Rey. But he says, "Fulfill your destiny" before Rey. And I'm thinking that Leia is there. She's the catalyst to turn Rey to make Rey angry. He's killing Leia right in front of her. And then he puts the pressure on Rey, like for her to change to be with him. And now you have Snoke and Rey and Luke and Kylo
together.
Yes, together.
I mean, there's so many things that could happen. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, Trent, I'm going to ask you first.
Did you want to fight me on this?
Yeah. I'm going to ask you. I want to ask you first. Maybe I'll go this way, right? And then I'll tell you. I'll ask. I'll put my. So, the couple of ways that it could go down. Would you rather see Snoke and Rey together, Luke and Kylo together, or Ren and Rey together, teaming up? If it were to go down that way, which way would you want it to go down?
When the movie's going to end?
Yeah. And then take us to the next.
Luke and Kylo.
Luke and Kylo together? Excellent.
I think that's the reason why he's saying kill the past. Let's kill what happened. And let's start fresh.
Yeah, there's twice in the trailer it says kill the past. While he's going after Leia, right?
Mm-hmm. So Tim, and the way that I'm posing this question,
captures Leia though. Kylo will capture Leia. He doesn't kill her; he captures her. Because I don't know if you remember, we talked about the theory. I'm sorry, not a theory. There was a leaked script, and in that script, Kylo smashed his helmet against the wall, or he broke his helmet.
And it shows it in this trailer.
And it showed it in the trailer. I was like, hey, that was the leak that we talked about, or at least part of it. So if that leak was true, if at least that part, then that means he does capture Leia. Leia gets interrogated by him. He gets pissed off, breaks his helmet, and goes back to talk to her again. I don't think he kills her. I think he just gets the information out of her that he needs for everything else.
So I'm going to pose a question this way, Tim. Not what do you think is going to happen? What would you want to see?
What would I want to see?
You know, Rey and Kylo together, Ren and Luke together, or any of the other combinations.
I'm gonna have to say Rey and Luke together.
Rey and Luke together still?
Keep Snoke separate. I mean, and Kylo separate. Yeah.
That's what you'd want.
And then have Ezra on the side.
Ezra. He's pulling out rebels.
Ezra is there. Still alive there.
Is he?
I was waiting for this.
Yes. What do you think?
Well,
or not. What do you think? What would you like to see happen?
Well, when I saw the trailer and it was the scene where his hand sticking out his hand and it was Kylo and Rey, I was so excited. I was crazy because I was like, wow, can you imagine what can go down? I would love to see that. Kylo and Rey. I mean, I know it's not gonna happen, but
you never know.
I mean,
it could happen.
That happened, I'd probably be screaming in the theater. But
we'd be like,
Izzy,
well, so that's what you'd want to see.
Yeah, I'd love to see that.
Sarah, what combo would you like to see together?
I kind of want to see
Rey with Force Lightning.
That's completely separate. Totally different. I want to see Kylo and Luke together just so we can find out what happened. Because they don't, they kind of touch base. What happened, but I don't know,
yeah.
So.
Oh my. It's okay. They've been on the show before. But I myself would like to see, I think I'm with you. I'd like to see Ren and Rey kind of together. I would like to see where that would take all this, because I think Snoke would be like, what the heck?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's what I wanted.
And then Luke, would that just throw him into like now I really have nothing? You know what I mean? Would that swing him to the dark side? You know what I mean? Plunge him into the dark
if he's
side?
not already on the way there.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean?
That's what does it.
Yeah. You know, and I know I was. I know. I talked to the guys a lot about it, and they're probably tired of me hearing me talk about it. But I mean, I read so many of the Legends books before everything turned Legend. You know,
Yeah.
and I love the Heir to the Empire series from Timothy Zahn, and you know, there was crazy Jedi in there and clone Jedi. You know, Luke was cloned, and so I mean, you know, it seems like they're kind of picking and choosing from Legends what they want, and I almost feel like Luke is almost like one of these crazy Jedis is just like right on the edge of just snapping. You know what I mean?
The thing about the trailer that got me the most was that he said he was afraid.
Yeah.
That the first thing we know about the dark side is fear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so that when I heard him say that, and he's a Jedi Master and he's afraid.
Yeah.
Okay, something's really, really wrong.
Yeah.
You know.
So,
That was the thing that got me about the trailer.
mm-hmm. The fear, right?
Yeah. As soon as he said that, I said, "Oh, okay, something's really wrong now."
Yeah, exactly. Because
if he's a master and he's saying he's afraid.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so he mentions what is it? What did you say?
Nate said, "I hope Luke does a Yoda and beat the shit out of BB-8 with his cane."
What? mine.
That'd be great. I was thinking something like that too. That's why I laughed.
Oh my god!
Sorry.
But no, that's good stuff. Good stuff. I'm really interested to see how
Seagull song.
Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! Well, we're hitting about 7:13, so I know we have several questions for Trent. You know, regarding his artwork and some questions regarding Star Wars in general. So, you know, maybe we can kind of move on to that because
Smashing the like button.
I know, look at that. We'd really love to really getting to know Trent a little bit more, especially in regards to his artwork. So, Sarah, you want to kick us off on the question asking? No? Yeah? Am I the first one? Am I? Yeah.
You're the first.
Okay.
Oh,
I can start off.
okay.
Okay.
You go.
Okay.
You go ahead. Go ahead.
Trent, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Oh god, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
We
for
know
having
you're
me.
busy. You know we got a lot of stuff going on right now. Yeah, like Lois said, some of these are gonna be in general about you, some of them are gonna be Star Wars specific.
Sure.
So where were you born and where did you grow up?
I'm a Corpus Christi native.
Cool.
Yeah.
So obviously you're still living in town now, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Cool. Do you see yourself maybe moving, like say, you know, you get more and more successful with your art and what's going on right now. Do you see yourself moving maybe out of the campus?
Yeah, my goal is this. I actually have two jobs. This is just one of two jobs I do. As soon as I get ready to retire from that one job, yeah, I'm planning on moving to somewhere else now.
That's awesome. I mean, we wish you the best of luck with that. I mean,
Well, thank you.
I mean, everybody, if we haven't mentioned it before, I think I did earlier, but right behind Tim, this is one of Trent's pieces of artwork. And I mean, it's beautiful. Look at that. I mean, I love the, you know, I would like to say I'm a artiste myself.
This is true.
I don't have like, you know, an education and you know, all that stuff with art or whatever, but I mean, that's awesome.
Thank you. Well, I'll be the first to tell you don't necessarily have to have an education to be an artist.
Yeah.
I didn't take any art.
Yeah, and I mean that's still very beautiful, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I know Izzy herself, she loves to draw and paint and all that stuff too. So I'm sure she appreciates, you know, your artwork as well.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm actually going to school for art.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, I'm gonna do like digital animation.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, so I'm like, oh, this is gonna be fun.
See, those are the kind of things I wish I could do, and I can't. I'm good at one thing.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm sticking with that. Oh my goodness. I'm still trying to find my one good thing.
Oh,
you have any rituals before you start working on something, or is it just?
Usually I've got some music playing. I usually burn a candle and make sure I am completely alone and I will not be interrupted.
Right.
So I can just get into a zone of trying to work. Because a lot of, especially the work I'm doing now, are all stuck with deadlines, and these deadlines are very, very short. They're getting shorter and shorter actually since I've started.
Oh wow.
And so I really have to get just completely focused in trying to get this work done as quickly as possible for the licenses.
Yeah. Excellent.
Wow.
So I think Tim, you're next.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. So how did you get into passion for arts, and what was your first ever piece of artwork you can recall creating?
Okay.
And I'm talking about not official artwork, or you can say official, but I'm like, even if like as a child where you realize, you know, that you can.
My father was an architect for the refineries. And so he was always drawing for me to entertain me. And that's how I got interested in drawing, was trying to imitate my father, the things that he was drawing for me to entertain me.
Oh, nice.
And actually the first thing, and I know because I still have this drawing, I have a drawing of Adam West's Batman hanging off that helicopter with the shark hanging on his leg.
Yes, 1966, 62.
That's one of the first things I ever drew, and I still have that.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Love it.
You really had a shark hanging off his leg?
Yeah, from the old TV Batman. Yes.
Yeah, because he breaks out the bat shark repellent and he sprays the
shark.
He's prepared for everything.
I love that where he had that big bomb and he's like running down the streets with his big bomb. Yeah,
he's running into nuns and people blocking it.
You've never seen it? Oh my God, it's hilarious.
I mean, I've seen clips. I've never seen that.
Yeah, it's so campy. It's good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Oh my goodness. All right.
That's cool.
All right. So, Trent, in your words, what is the most integral influence of the work of an artist such as yourself? So, like, maybe what influences you, or your past, or things, just your imagination, or what are some things that influence you in your artwork?
I think initially it started with design, and it probably has a lot to do with my father being an architect. And I think that was one of the things that interested me about so many different movies that I loved as a child, Star Wars and others, was the design that went into them, the intricacies that went into them, and the thought of how these things function. As I got older, though, I think I kind of switched. The more I started working on my art, I started getting more interested in lighting and how the light thing. I really like really stark lighting. It creates a little sense of drama with the piece you're working on, and a little bit of an emotion to it. Yeah. So those are the two things I've been focusing on the most, and I seem to found my voice with that.
Excellent. Yeah. Great.
So what project have you recently completed?
I just completed the next series of cards, which will be the first proper set for Last Jedi. And I also just completed a set of cards for The Walking Dead, my second set.
Yes. I love The Walking Dead.
I don't actually.
I love it.
I don't either.
Yeah.
This is actually my last job on Walking Dead.
Is that right?
Yeah, I've done 2 so far.
And
it's just not my forte.
No? Yeah. I love the show, though. Yeah. So, well, that's cool, though. Tim, you're up.
Would you do artwork for Game of Thrones? I'm just kidding.
I think that's a great question. Throw it in there, Tim.
I have, and not officially. I've had people to ask for commissions. I've done Arya and Sark and all that.
Oh, nice. So if anybody needs some commission work,
well, make sure
maybe get with Trent and see if he has the time to do that. Right? Because
that's been my biggest problem is these each assignment they've given me. I'm about to start my 7th since end of April.
Yeah.
Is they are really stacking them up. I've actually only had 2 weeks off.
Oh, wow.
And one of those was taken up by Hurricane Harvey.
Oh,
so,
God. It was not a week off.
The only thing I was thankful for was that I did not have any of Lucasfilm stuff in my hands during Hurricane Harvey, so I didn't have to worry about something happening to me.
Yeah. Oh, that would have been horrible.
Contractually, I am obligated to protect that stuff with my life.
Yeah, exactly right. The suitcase with the.
Yeah. So I was very.
That's a good one too. Very nice. Good job. You will not take these from me. Oh my goodness. All right, Tib.
Yeah, so what themes get your creative juices flowing? So, I mean, I know like Star Wars was the galactic theme or the galaxy themes, or was it Walking Dead, the whole zombie theme? Like what?
The Walking Dead actually, that was a job that I was offered like almost right after I got Star Wars. And it was just basically because I was working on Star Wars. They said, hey, you want to do Walking Dead too? And I was like, what? And I was afraid to say no.
Yeah.
So
you're like, okay.
I'm getting some work. So I was like, no, yeah, I'll do it. But as far as, I guess, things that interest me to make me want to compel me to work, it's probably design again. And then also being able to do something visually that kind of tells a story. I really am. I am interested in storytelling. I've worked in comics prior to this, and it's interesting to be able to try to tell a story with one picture.
Yeah.
That's the thing I'm always aiming at, is to try to get to that point, right?
Yeah. And that, I mean, just with this picture behind Tim, it's like, who's he looking at? He looks very menacing. I mean, it almost looks like you're looking up at him. You know what I mean? I mean, so just this one shot, you could almost tell a story just from the shot itself. You know what I mean? Because I know my imagination when I see, you know, a piece of artwork like that, that's what goes through my head. You know what I mean? So I appreciate artists like you creating pieces like this, because it gets my mind. So I mean, you've accomplished, you know, one of those things, because when I look at that piece, I'm like, I mean, he looks menacing. I mean, he's got his saber out. I mean, who is that he's looking down at? Yeah. You know what I mean? So I mean, it's a classic look, and I mean, it's a really great piece.
Thank you.
All right, let's see. Izzy, you're up.
Okay, what's your favorite piece of art that you've created so far?
That I've created. Oh, that's hard.
You have a favorite? They're all the favorites.
It's probably
It happens to be Walking
Looking
Dead.
down at
Oh no! Very nice. Oh my goodness.
It's probably not Star Wars related. It's probably I created a book of art, actually called Corpus Christi. It's a full ongoing comic series.
Ooh.
And I was really proud of just being able to actually have accomplished that. That was over 200 pages of art.
Oh my
Oh,
goodness.
wow.
That's a lot of work.
That
was-
is, yeah.
I was really proud that I was able to actually accomplish that. So,
That is amazing. Yeah. And I think I've seen some of the covers, you know, from your Facebook, and then I think Comics Plus, you know, shown pictures, and I think maybe even Texas Toys, if I'm not mistaken. And you know, the covers are, you know, same thing. You know, they tell a story, which is, you know, makes you want to, you know, open it up and what is this all about? You know what I mean? So, I mean, that's really cool. That, I mean, you know, doing that much artwork, and, you know, I'm sure it's very difficult to, you know, come up with a story and artwork for even one comic, but one shot comic, you know what I mean? Or, you know, a graphic novel, you know, much less an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
thank you.
Excellent. So What's it like being? You talked earlier about being on a time crunch, and deadlines. So what is it like being on that time crunch to deliver so many pieces of artwork?
Initially, it was really fun, and
You're like, this is great.
you get to about month 4, and you're like, okay. It really depends on the subject. Like, I love to work on anything Star Wars, obviously. But when they stack something else, like I'll have 2 assignments on top of each other, and they're both 2 in the same amount of time,
Oh, okay.
And which is what just happened with The Last Jedi and Walking Dead. And I was really taking my time on Last Jedi so I could try to make some stuff I was really happy with, and then I got to Walking Dead. I'm like, oh god,
it looks like a zombie.
Just make it look like a skull or something. Get this out of here so I can meet my deadline. I had about a little less than 4 weeks for both of those assignments. I probably spent 3.5 weeks on Last Jedi and then 48 hours on Walking Dead.
Oh, wow. That's incredible.
To get that all done as
quickly
as possible and get it out the door and meet my deadline.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
It's fun. I mean, especially with something you like to work on. And one of the cool things is from set to set is to try to do something that kind of gives yourself a voice. Separate from the other artists that are also working on this project.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of us out there working on this, but you kind of want to have something that sets you apart.
Yeah.
And we all get to see stuff that we're doing, and we get ideas. I think we bounce off ideas off of each other to try to come up with a particular voice per set.
Okay, cool.
So it's kind of interesting to figure out, okay, how can I change this up from the set I just did to this one and still make it be that this is obviously a Trent Westbrook piece.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
So that's what makes it fun.
Some kind of collaboration with other artists as well. That's pretty neat, and kind of getting your own voice to that collection kind of. Yeah, I like that. That's really cool. All right, so my question for you, it's not a follow-up question, but so if you kind of go to your memory banks, what are your favorite memorable moments that you've had or created due to your artwork projects?
Memorable moments,
maybe it could be meeting somebody or talking to somebody, or just anything kind of memorable to you.
I've had a lot of good experiences with children coming up to me and wanting to learn and watch what I'm doing.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
Then drawing pictures for me. And that's been really neat to see that I've somehow been an influence on them that they want.
Kind of like how your dad was with you.
Exactly.
Kind of like a passing of that. Yeah. That is so awesome.
I've had a few experiences at different Comic-Cons that I've done. And this one, I just remember this one kid in particular in San Antonio, and he was just latched on watching me for hours.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
He was just so into it, and he asked me to do a piece for him, and I was working on it. And then he wrote me one day in the mail, and he sent me the pictures that he had drawn, trying to draw how I had shown him how I work.
Yeah,
and it was just really cool. That's been real memorable to me. And then recently I was in San Antonio for another show back in May, and Dave Dorman and Scott Harvin were there. They're both prominent Star Wars artists. And I was like, hey, I finally got in,
Yeah.
And it was really cool to hear like Dave Dorman say, hey, you're one of us now.
Yeah.
And that really meant a lot to me.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Dave Dorman is somebody that I've always looked up to since the late 80s, because he was painting a lot of the Dark Horse comics for Star Wars. And getting to meet him and getting to know him a little better. And him saying that to me meant a lot to me.
Oh, I'm sure it did. That's, I mean, especially, they've been, integral from that long ago to now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're part of that universe, in itself, that Star Wars universe. So so I bet you that. I mean, I'm sure you're grinning from ear to ear to hear that.
It almost made me cry.
Yeah, absolutely.
When he told me, "Yeah, you're one of us now," I was like, "Oh wow."
Yeah, you're like, yeah. I think I got something ready.
It took me 41 years, but I got here. I got here.
That's great. That's some great stuff there, Tim. Yeah.
So I know some of these questions are already answered in a different way. So you don't have to answer some of these, but what inspires you when you are creating a new piece of artwork? For example, do you just like peace and quiet? Do you rewatch a particular movie that inspires you, or do you listen to a upbeat piece of jizz music?
Oh my God.
For all those who don't know, officially the Cantina Band plays that sweet jizz music. Sorry, Trent. As you were going to say, I know you listen to me. You said you listen to music.
I've never listened to that. I've never listened to that. Actually, I don't listen to any of Lucasfilm scores at all because when I'm listening to his music, I can immediately identify the scenes that they're with, and it gets me out of the zone of trying to concentrate on something that I'm working on.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So I never listen to anything. I try to listen to something that makes me relaxed and just gets me in a zone to work.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I actually don't listen to any of the Williams scores at all because it gets me out of the zone. I'm listening to a piece of music and go, "Oh, this is where Darth Vader comes in through here." And I'm totally out of what I'm doing. So
you're like, I got a deadline here. And I'm drawing Darth Vader. And
I'm trying to draw a porg. And Vader's coming.
You're like, now I got a porg with a helmet. And, oh my God.
With all these porgs to do, I keep picturing Vader coming through the door.
Oh my goodness, that is awesome. That is awesome. Izzy, you're up
Okay.
next.
So Trent, what is your dream project?
My dream project. I think I got it.
Oh,
I actually never. This kind of fell into my lap. I wasn't even trying to get. I wasn't pursuing Star Wars or anything. It was just a matter of for so long working within a large group of people and networking in between people. And somebody, I was doing most of my Star Wars work as just commissions because people liked what I was doing. And, amongst other artists that we're all friends with, together we share that work, and one of my friends was already working on, four tops on the Lucasfilm license, and she was nice enough to go say, "Hey, I've got a name for you. I've got an email address. I want you to do this amount of work. I want you to send it to him." And that's literally how it fell on my lap.
Oh, wow.
And and within 48 hours, they wrote me back and they said, "Hey, that's literally how quick it happened. I wasn't trying. I honestly didn't even know it was a possibility." But that's how it ended up working.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah. It was funny after that, though, because then after that, there was about 4.5 months of silence.
Oh,
Literally, and I kept going, and I kept asking my friends, I was like, "Was it real? Was it really good?" I was starting to think of, was this like a joke that someone did to me or something? Because I literally didn't hear anything for over 4 months. I was told on December 3rd of last year, and it literally was not till mid-April. I said, "Hey, here's your job."
Wow.
I was like, "Yes,
okay,
I've been waiting."
It was real.
So it was kind of funny, but yeah, as soon as the job started, it's been like a race ever since.
Yeah,
nonstop.
Yeah, and we're so lucky that you're able to do this with us today, because I think you're like, "Hey guys, I got a time frame from, I think it was like a week and a half ago or so, maybe a little bit longer, till October 14th, which is tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so we're like, hey, we got one the 13th. And, so thank you so much for, we know you're very, very, very busy. And so once again, we appreciate you stopping by and hanging out with us and talking Star Wars.
I actually brought some of the cards.
Oh, sweet.
Cool.
These, I'm told, are the 3 cards that basically got me the job.
Oh, nice.
And then these 4 are actually official Lucasfilm products.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, nice. Oh, that's neat.
So it was
These are nice.
it was really interesting. Just it's each card set's been a completely different subject almost,
Mm-hmm.
and at the same time, each set also is a challenge because they all seem to be on a completely different card stock that absorbs ink in a completely different way.
Oh, wow.
So
oh, my goodness.
I've had some horror moments, trying to save something, and then other times it's this is the set that I worked on that's coming out this November called Star Wars Masterwork, which I thoroughly enjoyed working on that set the most so far because it was literally all films.
Mm-hmm.
Even the Rebels and the Clone Wars, I could focus. So I had this wide range to play in.
Yeah.
And the card stock was great to work on. It just absorbed the paint so much easier.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of fun on that set.
So I'm going to ask you then, Trent, because you mentioned, absorbability of the card stock and, having, maybe a horror moment or like, oh my God. Do they send you like, okay, here's this many. If you mess up, hey, fix it? Or do you have like maybe a couple of extras?
You have one extra.
Oh my gosh.
You have one extra. And I quickly discovered that what they give you is very unforgiving.
Oh, wow.
So if you screw up,
it is what it is.
It is what it is. And the best thing you can do is try to save it.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So there was one card I did for this particular set, and it was early on as I got started. I think it was like the 15th card I worked on,
Mm-hmm.
and it was Kylo Ren's shuttle.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to do, and it's actually on eBay right now, which is funny because because it stinks so bad. It's such a bad card. But it's a image of Kylo Ren's shuttle, and I was trying to put sort of a red halo behind him. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and my process is I usually start with the background first, and then I go in with the detail in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And so I tape off what I don't want. I use an airbrush, and so I was using an airbrush to create that halo that would go around the ship.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it bled right under the tape, and it was black and red, the two darkest, deepest colors you can not get rid of.
Yeah.
And so I had to paint and paint and paint and paint to try to get that ship to come back out of all of that. And it was a nightmare.
Oh, I'm sure.
So after that, I had to spend even more time, making sure that I had to move my technique over just a little bit so it wasn't so direct.
Oh, wow.
Because when that happened, I was like, what do I do? I just totally I practically destroyed a card, and I can save it here.
Uh-huh.
And you've only got one extra. That's it.
Wow.
They're like, Trent, you have a lot of cards with just space and stars. Is that what you meant? Yeah, the Millennium Falcon is way
I was honestly hoping they would reject that card, and they didn't. Because you do have to go through a process where all your cards go through Lucasfilm for approval.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll tell you, rejection or approval or whatever and stuff like that afterwards. You don't find out really until the last minute before the cards come out, actually. Mm-hmm. And luckily, the majority of my cards have all been approved.
Oh, no.
But then there's been cards I've been like, why didn't you reject that one?
Why did I send that one in? Well, let me ask you a follow-up to that. if a card is rejected, are you required to then make a new card in place of that?
No, luckily you're paid for your work no matter what.
Okay.
Because it's your Tops is basically the company that has the license, and they're paying you for that work.
Mm-hmm.
Lucasfilm is the person who has the last answer of what gets to go out.
Oh, okay, I see.
But funny enough, even some on that set, I did 115 pieces, and I had 3 rejections.
Wow!
And those rejections somehow got out anyway.
Oh.
I know this because people posted online, "Hey, look at the card I got."
You're like, hey.
I was told that was rejected, and I really wish it was. You got a really ugly one. That guy, I felt so bad when he got that card. I said, "You know what? I'm going to send you another one."
Yeah, you don't want that. Here, let me
Just give me your address, and I'm going to give you another one because you paid money for that, and I feel so bad. So I made him a new card.
That is hilarious. Oh my goodness. And it's funny, I'm sure, being an artist and being in the public eye, and you think, oh man, I wish I could have done better. Whereas on the opposite side, your fans and people who want your artwork is like, oh, I love it, this is awesome, and you're like, no, I don't, and sometimes, you may be overcritical of yourself. You know what I mean?
Well, I definitely cut my teeth on that set.
Yeah,
I definitely cut my teeth on that set because you don't know until they provide you with materials what you got to work with, and you got to hit the ground running as soon as you get it because you got this deadline coming up.
Yeah,
and so I started off, as simple as I could. I basically just drew for my first 5 or 6 pieces. I painted just stormtroopers because it's like, okay, this is something organically I know I can do, and this will help me figure out how is this going to work. Yeah, and how is this medium going to absorb the ink and everything like that. And from then on, I started getting a little bit more relaxed, and then of course I had an accident, and so it was. You just kept learning, what can you do, and you obviously got a time constraint also to do this, so you've got to figure out fast how to make this work.
So I'm curious, and I know there's some things you can talk about, you can't talk about. I'm kind of curious, I know you said it was about 150 pieces of artwork?
On that particular set was 115 pieces.
115. And so with that many pieces of artwork, what time frame do they give you? Is it a month, 2 months?
That was 5 weeks.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, wow.
That was 5 weeks.
Oh, that's a lot of artwork for 5 weeks.
Yeah.
My goodness, that is impressive.
Oh, thank you.
That is impressive to get that quality in that many pieces in 5 weeks.
That was 5 weeks. It started April 24th, and the job was due by June 2nd.
Wow. Yeah. So literally, you had no time off.
No.
At all.
No. Wow. And then immediately after that, they had stacked up a Walking Dead job. It was due a week later after that. So I had that on top of that.
Yeah.
And then they gave me another set immediately after that. That was due June 26th.
Oh, wow.
And then immediately after that, then I got another job. And that job was the largest amount of cards I'd done. And I had 6 weeks.
Yeah.
6 weeks or 7 weeks. No, 7 weeks I had on that job.
Yeah.
And then we kept waiting. It's like, we know Last Jedi's coming up. So when are you going to give us the proper set?
Yeah.
And they literally didn't give it to us until the materials until after Labor Day. And they're due about way on October 2nd.
But today we're Labor Day.
This is way after Labor Day. So by the time you get it, you've got 3 weeks.
Yeah. Wow. That's crazy. All right. So
your hands hurt after all?
I'm sorry.
That's a great question, Tim.
Does your hands hurt
after you don't get your vacation time for your hands?
They actually do. I have to. You start getting cramps after a while trying to.
Also, did it have insurance for your hands?
Oh no! Oh no! This is all freelance work, so you have to take care of yourself.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Wow.
All right.
That's me? Oh, yeah. Okay. So, Trent, what's the best piece of advice you've gotten about, your artwork?
Or that you've given.
Or that you've given as well.
Best piece that I've been given. It was probably just to find your own voice, to stop trying to focus on what everyone else is doing and find out what works for you and what people identify with. And I've tried, that was one thing you have to basically play around and figure out, what do you like? What do you like to do?
Mm-hmm.
What works for you when you're making a piece? And because I had a lot of people telling me, and this is when right prior before I got into comics, everybody's like, oh, you got to do feathering. This is how you do fades, and that's what I'm like. I hate that. You know? Why do I have to do it like that?
Mm-hmm.
And I started picking up an idea of just using pointillism to create my fades,
Mm-hmm.
and people really responded to that.
Yeah.
They liked it. They said it made it feel like it had more of a gritty feel to it.
Yeah.
So I started focusing on that more, and people started actually going, "Oh, I recognize that's one of yours."
Yeah.
So it was really cool to find your voice that way.
Yeah. And when you found your voice that way, is that did you find more fulfillment and enjoyment doing that piece of artwork?
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. Once you have in your mind how this thing is going to work, and you figured out, how it's going to work, then it starts becoming a lot more fun.
Yeah.
You're not sitting here straining and stressing about, oh man, I got to do it this way because somebody said to, and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get out of that frame of mind, and I blame a lot of the industry for that, because there's a lot of people, especially in comics, they're saying,
mm-hmm.
you got to do this a particular way. You got to be drawing like this guy. You got to be drawing like that guy.
Yeah.
And they put a lot of stress on you, but then you end up becoming as a carbon copy.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, you're that person? Oh, you look like you're drawing like them. I can't differentiate.
And they've already hired that guy.
Yeah.
So trying to find work when basically all you're doing is just doing a carbon copy of what other people do.
Yeah.
It's better to sit and just focus on what you enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
And through that, you'll find your own visual voice, what it separates you from everyone else.
Yeah, absolutely. Great answer. So, Trent, I'm going to ask you a question. This is just a in general question, not necessarily an artwork question or Star Wars question. So, in general, what couldn't you do without?
What couldn't I do without?
Mm-hmm.
My family.
Your family?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, right.
Yeah.
Kind
of mushy probably answer, but
nothing wrong with that.
My family.
Yeah. Absolutely. So great. So it's funny because we all of us actually work at the Flower Bluff HEB.
Okay.
And we've created our own little Star Wars family. So family is important. There's a couple of times Izzy wasn't able to make it, and we were, oh, are you okay? We want you to get better. You need anything? And, stuff like that. So family is important, you know what I mean? And not just, blood relatives, but, I call it extended family, where, your friends, the people that you're close to, almost become like
they are
brother.
Your family.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Yeah. So absolutely. That's a great answer. Tim, you're
Can you give us, hold on before I ask this question.
Go.
Some of these, again, on my question here, some of these have already been answered because you've been doing so good at answering your questions,
Mm-hmm.
like adding more to it. So, as it just, anyway, I'll just ask it anyway. Can you give us a rundown of the process when a company requests or hires for a project? For instance, do you pre-rate on what you create, or do they just tell you, like, we want you to draw X, Y, and Z? Can you talk to us a bit about that? And then, what projects, if any, will you be working on in the near future?
It really depends on the project. Each project has a contract, and the contracts have been very specific. Not just with Topps, but with other companies and publishers I've worked with in the past. They pretty much have a guideline of what they want. Some are a little bit more open-ended. When I first went professional in 2006, I was illustrating for books, and I was doing illustrations for both fantasy and poetry books. So it was a little bit more open-ended at that, where I was basically working with the author, trying to determine how to represent what they were writing. Whereas working for Topps, who's basically answering to Disney for the Star Wars, they're very, very specific. Each contract comes with a list of guidelines saying this is what you can do, this is what you cannot do, and it has to be within this frame of work. So it just depends. It depends on the project you're working on, really, and who you're working for. Disney and also AMC for Walking Dead, they're very, very specific about what they want and what they don't want you to do.
Yeah.
That's one of the things you notice in the contract, is they tell you exactly what they don't want you to do.
Interesting.
So it just depends on who you're working for.
Cool. Excellent. Well, Trent, those are some really great questions, and thanks for being as candid as you possibly can be. With those questions, I can tell, and I'm sure everybody else can tell that you're very, very genuine, and we appreciate that. You know what I mean? So, and thanks for getting letting us get to know a little bit more about you in regards to your artwork and what you care about and all that stuff. But this is Star Wars podcast, right? So we're gonna ask you some Star Wars related questions.
Okay.
All right. And so can you tell us? Does Luke die? You have to know. They told you something. I know somebody told you something, Trent. Give it to us, man. I mean, Tim is salivating to know if Luke dies. I'm just kidding.
I can tell you, I honestly don't know. I can tell you what I believe, and that's that I don't think he's going to die in this film.
Yeah.
However,
but
that's Ford. That
Ford.
Don't get me started on pork. I've thrown like 1 million porks. As far as the information we get from Disney, it's actually extremely limited, believe it or not. We were privy to like a few design elements maybe back in April or May or stuff, but it was nothing that actually didn't end up leaking out to anybody else. They're very, I guess I would use the word conservative about what they give you to work with. And so sometimes I don't end up knowing any more than you do.
Yeah.
I have to really actually rely on things that have been officially put out there to work with. And that's what I end up using.
Oh, excellent. Excellent. All right. So
they have a very tight rein on anything Star Wars, and they don't even trust us artists. So
if something came out of Mr. Westbrook, we need to talk.
that was one interesting thing that I found out, and I did not know this after I was hired. I was warned by Dave Dorman and Scott Harbin. They said, every material they give you is coded.
Oh, really?
To your name.
Oh, wow.
So if anything got out that was yours, they'd know it had come from you.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't. I was like, oh God. I've been working for them for 6 weeks, and I had no idea until they told me. They said, every material they give you, down to like say they give you a reference picture or something, when they send that to you, it's coded.
Oh, wow.
To your name. So if anything leaks out, out. They know exactly who to go to,
Oh, wow.
and you won't be in this industry much longer.
Oh wow!
So I was like, okay. So, yeah,
Oh my goodness!
it was scary.
Oh my goodness!
I don't know. I told my mom, she's like, were they just trying to scare you, or is this like government stuff?
Exactly. Oh,
Like, I'm
my
just telling
goodness.
you what they told me, Mom.
Right. And just for Micah, increíble, mano. All right. Well, we have some more Star Wars questions for you, and Izzy's going to hit you up on one of our first official Star Wars questions for you.
Okay, Trent. Serious question.
Serious. Okay.
Okay, you're about to beat Chewbacca at chess. The prize on the line is your dream job that you just told us about. Would you let the Wookiee win?
Well, my dream job unfortunately involves my arms, so like that's a really mean question. It's like, I won't have the dream job if you rip my arms off, because then I can't draw. So I don't know. Maybe just for the sake of not being harmed, I'd probably let him win, maybe, and just give up on my dreams.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, Trent. Decisions. In relation to Star Wars, do you lean towards more the light side or the dark side?
It depends on the day. Depends on the day. Some days I feel like the light side, and other places I feel very much the dark side. So it just depends on the day.
Excellent. All right, let's see. So, that's me, right?
No.
Oh no, that's Tim.
It's
Tim.
Micah.
It's the next one.
It's
It's
Micah.
Micah.
So we have the original thing we do on our podcast. It's called 3-3-1. So you get, was it 3 choices? Yeah, and 3 seconds, and you got to give one answer. 3 choices. We're going to give you 3 choices. You get 3 seconds.
I'm not good at games.
Okay. Imagine Order 66 has just been executed. Would you rather be Darth Vader, Palpatine, or Obi-Wan?
3.
Palpatine.
Ooh.
Ooh.
It only took 1 second. Boom! I thought you said you were good at games.
That one's kind of scary.
Scary.
You chose the dark side over Obi-Wan.
I would prefer to be Obi-Wan, but in that moment, yeah.
As safe as possible.
Mhm.
Okay. This has been a burning question from the beginning of our podcast. We ask you to draw upon your Star Wars Force abilities and tell us who is the chosen one. Who you think the chosen one is?
Wasn't this already proven? This is.
I mean, I think Micah talks about it all the time, but recently.
Maybe.
I don't know now with the new trilogy. My initial answer before the new trilogy was Anakin, and it was through his son he was redeemed. He was the chosen one. And he ended up killing Palpatine. He ended up destroying, the Sith.
Mm-hmm.
But now that we have Rey in the picture, I don't know. What I don't know.
TBD. TBD. All right, let's see. Oh, that's me.
Good choice.
Okay, I already did that one down. All right, sorry,
Okay.
you done.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All
I
right,
kind of asked that one earlier.
Micah's
Okay.
proud.
So we know you like Star Wars.
No.
No,
No.
I know. We're here.
No.
What did I walk into?
Are there any other franchises that you enjoy besides the one from a galaxy far, far away?
Oh, sure. I'm a huge Blade Runner fan,
Oh, cool.
Cool.
and I really enjoyed the new movie. There's just a lot of old films that I really like. I love everything with the Dark Crystal.
Oh yes.
And
Yes.
I probably have to unfortunately say Tron. I say that unfortunately because that is the movie that basically got me in my other career, which I now hate. So
we'll leave it at that.
So, but I still love Tron, but it's a love-hate relationship right now.
Mm-hmm. How did you like the newer version, or are you more like?
I absolutely loved it.
Yeah,
I had no problems with it. I know a lot of people that didn't like it.
Yeah, I got a lot of bad.
But
I like it a lot.
I thought it was great. I didn't think they were like retreading, the first movie at all. It went into a totally different spin on things.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I thought was really smart.
Mm-hmm.
And I know everybody was upset with, the way that Clue looked like he was CG animated, and I'm like, well, he's a program.
Exactly, yeah.
He's a program, so he doesn't have to look exactly human-like like Jeff Bridges, and so I didn't have any problems with it.
Me neither. Yeah, I kept wondering why people were just beating that movie down. I thought it was really good.
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah,
I had no problems with it.
Excellent. Good, great answer.
Sarah's being a hater.
What?
I hated that movie.
No, I didn't. I've only seen the new one, so I can't compare it to the original.
We saw your face.
That's what I'm saying. Okay, Tim.
All right. Let's see. Oh, it's Tim.
It's me. Yeah.
It's me.
Are you a poker player, Trent?
Depends. It depends on what we're going
I'm pretty
for.
good at poker faces.
I played 10 poker. It's really good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to sit and say I'm good, but I have played.
So I have that art of reading faces. I want to know if you can tell us everything you know about The Last Jedi.
No.
Everything. let me ask you again. Leave us with one thing. One thing.
It's got porgs in it.
What do you think about porgs?
I don't have a problem with them.
Yeah.
They are what they are, and it's not like we haven't had something like that in previous films. So
Izzy was deathly scared of them. Tell them her story. Tell her story.
I thought
teeth or
I thought they were cute. We had a podcast, and me and Sarah were like, wow, they're so cute. We're gonna go buy one. Well, I went to Target a couple of days after that, and there's they had the stuffed porgs, and they had the ones that talked. Mm-hmm. And so I hit the one that talked, and it made the scariest noise. I was like,
it'll start screaming at you.
Yeah, it was not cute. I was like, what is this? I was scared. It was like Furbies all over again. I was like, I don't think so. Put it down and I walked away.
She got rid of it.
I don't understand that. I remember when I first, I was like, why did they put that sound in that thing? Isn't that going to freak a kid out? He hits that button and all of a sudden it makes a squawking sound like it's dying or something at you.
Oh my goodness.
It's like, I guess that's what you can expect from the movie. They're constantly screaming because they're dying. I don't know.
Oh my goodness.
Something's coming at them all the time, so they're screaming.
Oh my goodness. We've theorized that got Luke, we got Rey, Chewie, and R2 on Ahch-To, and Porgs.
Yeah.
And of those 4 characters, 3 of them need to eat.
I wasn't expecting that at all.
So the next card set you have with Porgs for us.
I don't think this is going to let me do that. As funny as that is, I don't think they're going to let me do that. That might show up in the next contract. Do not draw anybody eating pork.
Oh my goodness, that's too funny. Too funny. Well, thank you for answering those questions. Tim is a great poker player, and he tried to use his Jedi mind tricks there to get you to tell us some things there. So I'm sorry about that.
It's okay.
Yeah. So, Trent, we come to the part of the show where we generally ask our guests to rank the movies for us. We hope that you'll spend a little bit more time with us and rank the movies for us, if you don't mind. And I'm going to ask Izzy. Izzy, this time, no disintegration. If you disagree with his rankings of the movies, because I'm left cleaning the mess. Okay. Thank you.
I'll try.
Do I need a shield? Should I brace myself? Okay.
All right. So, Tim, I'm going to get this ready here.
All right.
If you can explain to Trent exactly how we do the ranking.
It's pretty simple. Just go through all the episodes, starting with episode 1, and this is going to include Rogue One. We rate them from 1 to 100.
1 to 100.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and that's why we gave you a sheet of paper with your name on it. I don't know if we have a pen over there for you. And just for, if you want to write them down, because I'm going to have them in a Excel sheet over here, but just for your reference, so you can kind of for yourself, if you want to. So you don't have to. That's
So we're starting off with the Phantom Menace.
Phantom Menace,
and also
you can be elaborate with your rating too, and go off and say, give us your why you gave it that number.
Yeah, and plus, we don't want you to say, hey, I like Tron better than the Phantom Menace, so I'm going to give it this grade. It's just within its own movie. You know what I mean? So, just wanted to give you that information as well that we give to the other guests. Okay. So, Phantom Menace.
Phantom Menace, yes. So, episode 1. What rating?
We're doing this at 1 through 100.
1 to 100, yeah.
I would give it a 60.
A 60.
Mike already listening.
Thank God Micah's in Ireland right now, because he would be upset.
He'd probably cry.
We call ourselves the council, right? And so for overall grade, the council gave the Phantom Menace a 76.67, which isn't too far off of the 60 that you gave. Can you talk to us a little bit about a 60, because that's almost a little polarizing, you know what I mean? It's kind of almost right in the middle.
I felt it was a polarizing movie when it came out, because you either liked it or you hated it. It just seemed like.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of things about the movie that I love to watch, and it's actually one of the. I can actually sit through that movie, and it doesn't bother me to sit there and watch it. There's nothing about it. Yeah, I can get through all the the little stuff that annoys me, but there's nothing about that story up until the very last moment when everybody's like wondering who's behind this, and then all of a sudden they pan to Palpatine.
Yes. Up
until that point, there's not a whole lot going on that made me connect the dots. And I just felt like things were thrown in. Okay. So it was entertaining in a lot of respects, and then other parts I was just like, oh.
Yeah.
So I just found it to be a very polarizing movie. It was kind of, it's either you're not or you are.
Your favorite part of episode 1, the Phantom Menace?
The duel.
The duel, right?
Oh, yeah.
That has
face.
Yes. Yeah, the music and
the
drama and the sword fighting.
Yeah, that's the best piece of music out of the prequels.
Oh yeah.
Duel of the Fates. That's definitely the best duel, I think.
Absolutely. Okay. Tim, you want to tell me?
What's number 2? Attack of the Clones.
Oh, God.
He's grumbling.
I'm gonna go with a 35.
That one got.
Oh gosh.
Wow.
But that one did get a lot of low ratings, right?
Yes, it did. And as a council, we graded it at a 69.67. But just to let you know, there was a 25 in there from for Miss Izzy over here. She's very proud of that.
I am. It's true.
So,
You're the worst.
Oh,
Wait a minute.
I'm gonna need more wine.
So this is on the spectrum of the other side of the 50, right? So talk to us a little bit about that.
I can't even sit through the movie anymore.
Oh, is that right?
I can't.
Yeah.
As much as I try to even force myself to watch it,
Mhm.
by the time I get halfway
yourself.
through it, I can't. I can't do it.
Yeah.
The dialogue is just horrible
Mhm.
in that film, and there's aspects that I really. When I first saw the movie, I thought I loved that movie, but
Mhm.
as time has gone on, I can't sit there and watch it.
Yeah.
I liked the whole whodunit thing of Obi-Wan trying to figure out who was behind it. I liked that part.
Yeah.
But everything with Anakin and Padme was forced.
Yeah.
Everything.
You could kind of feel that, right?
And it hurts. I mean,
Yeah.
when you're listening to it, it actually hurts.
Mhm.
And I don't blame the actors at all. I blame who wrote the dialogue. I'm
Mhm.
sorry. That was really terrible dialogue.
Mhm.
It
Yeah.
it hurts hearing it.
Yeah.
I don't think, I think the only two people in the prequels that really had any fun were probably Ewan McGregor and Ian McDonald.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody else was just like, how do I get through this?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And speaking of Ewan McGregor, is kind of getting a little bit off topic like we do sometimes here. Would you like to see him reprise his role, maybe in an Obi-Wan standalone movie?
Obi-Wan is my favorite hero.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. So
Even
that-
before we got to the prequels, when we just had Alec Guinness, he's my favorite hero.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So that's a yes.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Awesome. Easily.
Episode 3,
Okay.
Revenge of the Sith. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go with a 70.
Okay. So that's on the passing side now. we got a passing grade.
Yeah.
Passing grade.
Passing grade.
So-
However,
However,
the scores were really high on that one, weren't they?
right? So for the council on Revenge of the Sith, we gave it an 86 even. There was grades up and down, but a grade of an 86. So we gave it a solid B. Solid B. So you decided, hey, it's passing, it's good enough. So talk to us a little bit about Revenge of the Sith.
The very first 40 minutes of that movie you can cut off.
What?
You don't.
That's Tim's favorite part. We just talked about that last podcast. He said, if you keep any of that movie, it's the first 40 minutes.
The whole thing with Grievous at the beginning and that whole battle,
Mhm.
it doesn't progress the story anywhere. Absolutely not. If you cut that off and we just started from that point,
Mhm.
I think it's a little easier to chew on.
Mhm.
So I think it's got a big editing mess in my opinion, that
Yeah.
film. But it was great. There were some really great moments in that film. Maybe not dialogue wise, but the way things were framed and the way he would juxtapose things. Like
Mhm.
one of my favorite scenes in that whole movie is when Padme and Anakin are basically having this connection between each other in the two different buildings they're at.
Yes.
And it was there. I'd never seen anything like that in a Star Wars movie, and I thought
Yeah.
that was such an interesting choice.
Yeah.
I really liked that part of the film,
Mhm.
and I thought the drama that played out after Order 66 was carried out, I thought that was handled really well.
Yeah.
But I just felt like there was almost the whole beginning of that movie is totally unnecessary.
Yeah.
It was just one big roller coaster for the sake of having a roller coaster
Yeah.
at the beginning of your movie.
It's Star Wars. Let's put a war out there.
Yeah,
And-
let's just, instead of just getting down to the basics of what's going on with these characters.
Yeah.
That and the scene between Palpatine and Anakin when they're talking about Plagueis and everything. I mean, that was a beautiful scene.
Yeah.
It's got some really great pieces
Mhm.
of work in it,
Yeah.
but it's an editing mess in my opinion.
Yeah. So had the editing been a little bit better, your score probably.
If it had been a lot tighter of an edit, and we got rid of some of this unnecessary stuff out, I think it would have been a better film.
You know, Trent, this brings up a really great question that I just thought of right now. Speaking of editing, they're saying the running time for The Last Jedi is 2 hours and 30 minutes.
Okay.
So maybe they didn't edit it at all.
That's fine by me.
Are you okay with the Star Wars movie that's almost 3 hours long?
Well, Attack of the Clones is about that long.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as I want to put some faith in Rian Johnson because he's going against the grain.
Yeah.
So as long as we're getting something fresh and we're not getting something just regurgitated thrown at us, I'm for it.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, I sat through Lord of the Rings. That was a long movie. And
I did that entire that trilogy Tuesday
did
thing.
You really?
Yeah, where we watched all the movies and they were all extended too.
Uh-huh.
Oh my god! I love those films, but it hurt.
Yeah.
You know,
you're like, no, literally, I'm hurting right now.
It literally hurt. I actually got sick.
Really?
I got the flu in the middle of 2 towers. I'm not kidding. I had to go get some medicine and come back to watch, so I could watch Return of the King. I hadn't watched that part at all yet.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I literally got the flu in the middle of trilogy 2.
Oh man! Goodness gracious!
So I've done that.
You know, I'm gonna really quick here. Micah's brother, and I forget his name. Do you remember?
I forgot his name.
Micah's brother came up with a really great theory.
Chance?
I'm sorry?
Chance kid?
I believe so. That possibly Mace Windu could have thought that he himself was a chosen one.
Mm.
Have you heard of this?
No, I haven't, but that makes me cringe.
Is it? Yeah. Well, how do you feel? It makes you cringe because why? Like,
if I had to see Samuel Jackson do it, I don't think I could deal with it.
No.
No. No. No, thank you.
No.
Were you disappointed, or maybe somehow like, how did this not happen? That Samuel L. Jackson didn't drop an MF bomb in Star Wars?
I'm indifferent, honestly, because I'm at the point where he's like in every single movie now. And I don't want to see his face anymore. It's like, can't there be somebody out there? He's literally in every movie, at least every 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
There's another movie with Samuel Jackson, and you're like, why?
Yeah.
And he's the highest grossing actor out there. So any movie with him in there, they rake in more money.
And then you see him before the movies in the Capital One commercials, and
And I'm not trying to say I hate Samuel Jackson or anything like that. There's movies that he's done that are absolutely fabulous.
Yeah.
But then there's a lot of them that he just phones in. I'm sorry. And he's just there for the draw to get people in there. Yeah. And then when you watch the movie, it's like, what purpose did he serve?
So then, Trent, I've got to ask you this follow-up question to that. What if you got a project and it was all Mace Windu? Moving on. Let's go to the next movie. You don't have to answer that.
Yeah. Just pass on that. I don't want to get in trouble. This is actually being documented.
Yes, exactly. Next question. Next movie.
Stop it. Rogue One. The next one.
Rogue One, I would give a 90.
90.
I went and saw the final scene this morning.
Sarah gave Rogue One a 99.72 specifically. So talk to us about that. So that's so far the highest grade you've given to any of the movies at that point. So what drew you to that movie, or made you say, hey, it deserves an A?
I like that we went in a totally different direction.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't really focusing on the whole Chosen One saga and anything like that, and we got more into the military aspect, which I really thought was really cool. Mm-hmm. And she's probably my favorite female character now, Jen Erso. Yeah, I absolutely thought here was somebody. It wasn't, she was. Whereas everybody's sitting there waiting on a planet for somebody to discover her and everything. She's the one that's been through it, and she's actually sick of it. You got a totally different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked the totally different perspective. It was fresh to me. I liked that.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, just the getting into the guts of the whole military and the drama going on within their own structure, I thought was really cool. I love that.
Excellent. All right. I know Izzy saw it, and the movie started rolling. She started crying. That was it for her.
This is true.
Yeah. She loved it that much.
Yeah.
All right, next movie.
A New Hope.
Well, that's the one that started it, so I'm gonna go probably with a 92.
92. All right. So we talk about it. The scene, right?
Mm-hmm.
The scene.
Luke Skywalker and the twin sons.
It encapsulates. How do you say it, Tim?
Encapsulates the entire Star Wars franchise in that one scene.
Right.
I love that scene.
It's a great visual.
Twin
That
sons.
visual,
It's a beautiful visual.
Yeah, absolutely.
With the music.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, like you said, it's the one that started it off. Now this one is the highest grade you've given. And with that grade that you gave it, it's going to overtake Rogue One as our guest's third liked episode. So A New Hope is going to overtake Rogue One and to be number 3 for our guests. So talk to us a little bit about A New Hope. I mean,
It was fresh. It was something that no one had done before at that time.
Did I say that? It's fresh air.
Yeah.
I mean, no one had seen anything like that in 1977.
Yeah.
I mean, everything. It wasn't some straight up 2001 sci-fi movie. It was more fantasy than it was sci-fi. It just happened to be in a sci-fi element.
Mm-hmm.
And he really hit all the notes really just right on that film.
Yeah.
Sure, it's got some parts that are slow and everything, but nobody had done anything like that before.
Yeah.
And also just the visual element he brought to it, and that he had the foresight to think about those kind of things, the design of it. No one had seen anything like that as far as design.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was just a perfect storm.
Yeah. And what's so interesting about that, I have a stepson, his name's Albert, and he lives here with us, but I'll pop in the movies every once in a while and just watch them, and he knows which episode is which, and every once in a while while I'm watching them, especially like A New Hope, he's like, hey Louis, when did this movie come out again? And and I tell him, and he's just amazed. He's just like, how did they do that?
It's timeless.
Back then? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's timeless.
And I was like, there's a lot of hard work, and like you said, visual creativity, and coming with something fresh and new, and I mean, they did it. You know what I mean? It's amazing.
If you look at the atmosphere in the 70s, most of the films that coming out were very dark movies, and I think it just reflected the times, and it was one of the few movies that stood out from everything coming out. That was not this real hard-edged, dark thing. It was something positive, and it made people feel good.
Absolutely. All right, continuing on.
Oh, episode, what are we on now? We're five.
Episode 5.
98.
98. Very nice. Tim wants to know why, because he ranked it at a 13.
No, I didn't.
Trent was like, I'm leaving. I'm taking my stuff with me. I might take some more stuff with me. Tim actually gave it a 94. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Izzy gave it a 98. I gave it a 95. Micah gave it an 85. And Sarah gave it a 95. So all of us gave it high grade scores except for Micah. But talk to us a little bit about The Empire Strikes Back.
They took the story and they elevated it. They didn't repeat themselves. They took it into something that was a total surprise. They elevated the skill that it took to make the special effects and everything that they did. That it was an improvement from the first film. And it took what was great about A New Hope and added a real guttural form of emotion to it.
It did.
That wasn't present in the first one necessarily. The first one, as great as it is, it's kind of a point A to point C film. Whereas in Empire, you really started getting into the guts of what's. I mean, even when you just see a scene where Darth Vader is standing there and he's thinking, you know, you can actually tell by the way it's filmed that there's something going on in there.
Yes.
And it's really interesting to see that perspective. I think that was probably the best directed film. Irvin Kershner really handled it well, the material well. And I just think it was the perfect sequel. There's not a whole lot of movies that have a perfect sequel.
Yeah, I agree. And I think most of us agree with you know, your grade too, because we all gave it high scores. Continuing on.
So episode 6. Return of the Jedi.
Okay. What did I say for Revenge of the Sith?
Revenge of the Sith, you gave a 70.
70.
Right on the money, 70.
Okay. I'll give it a 75.
Okay. Because it did not have porgs.
Oh my God.
I'm just kidding.
No, we had Ewoks.
So tell us, you know, it's one of the classics. The 2 previous classics you gave an A to, and now we're back down into the C. A solid C, mind you, but a C. So talk to us a little bit about that.
As much fun as it is, there's elements that just felt like we had to go there. Like, I feel like you kind of feel like you're wedged into a corner. Okay, we have to address what happened to Han Solo. Okay, we got to get that out of the way. And you kind of go through the steps, but it regresses from what Empire did so well. It goes backwards. Yeah, it takes a step back. You're not really, for most of the movie, concerned about what's really going on with the people, just to take it from point A to point Z. You know.
Yeah.
And I could appreciate the design, but not as much so. I felt like this was the beginning of George Lucas trying to do as much as he can pack into a film. It felt like in places excess to me. It still had great parts. I really enjoyed. Once we get past the whole thing with Jabba the Hutt, Luke's kind of trying to figure out. You get the idea he's kind of on the fence there. Where is he going to go? And he's even dressed in black, black outfit. So you kind of, there's a mystery there of where is this going to actually end? You know, and what's going to happen with the father-son relationship. So I enjoyed that part of the movie. Yeah. But I felt like it was packed, especially front-ended, with some excess.
Okay. And that makes sense. Absolutely. All right. So now with that score, Empire Strikes Back has now overtaken Return of the Jedi for our guests. So now, you've influenced 2 of those scores. So that's awesome. That's awesome to see that. Because for a while there, everything was just kind of flowing the same. So you really mix it up there a little bit. So that's pretty cool. All right, our last movie, and then we're going to have to wrap it up because we're getting to our
The Force Awakens.
I would go with an 85.
85. All right. Let's see. Where is it for us? For us, Tim gave it a 93. Micah, our other council member, gave it a 94. I gave it an 89. Izzy gave it 100. And Sarah gave it an 85. No, 99.
Okay.
A 99. So almost 200s from the ladies. So 100 and then a 99. So talk to us a little bit about The Force Awakens.
It's an enjoyable film to watch, and it definitely rejuvenated. I know one of the criticisms is that it copied elements of A New Hope, and that honestly, I never even thought about that when I was watching it.
Yeah.
But there were some moments that I just felt like it started to feel at times forced to me, like we're having to go there, and I was hoping for something just a little bit more fresh than we got. It's not a bad film at all. It's really it was really fun. I really liked the character of Ray. Ray just really rejuvenated, I think, Star Wars, and it really has me curious. Obviously, what direction we're going to go in, because but. My criticism isn't against what it copied from or any elements it followed. I know that Disney was wanting to make a movie that was safe so that they could, get this thing back up and going.
Yeah.
It's a very safe movie.
Yeah, it's a very safe.
I thought it was very safe.
It's very safe. It was smart. They were very smart to do what they did and not go against the grain and the direction like what Lucas had done with the prequels.
Yeah.
Which that was a totally different monster itself. And I understand what he was doing, and I liked the mystery of how Palpatine had completely orchestrated this
from behind the scenes.
Yeah. Over a long period of time, But I just felt like there were some things that I was like, okay. Let's move on.
Yeah.
But it's good. It's a good film. It's a good film.
Well, and you gave it a solid grade. 85 is, a solid grade. So the last one that we're going to grade is, have you seen Forces of Destiny? We're not going to grade it. Don't worry about it.
I thought that for a second, man. I was like,
I don't know. Is this a fan film or what?
It's actually put out by Lucasfilm. Their short story.
The shorts on
YouTube.
On YouTube.
Yeah,
by Disney, right?
Yeah, put it by Disney. So
I guess I haven't.
Yeah, very. I don't know.
It's okay that you haven't seen them.
Yeah. Oh, you mentioned
you
Rebels earlier, right? How do you like that series? Or do you watch it?
Yeah, I've watched most of it. There's some stuff that I do like, and other stuff I'm just like, really, can we just jump to something? We don't have to really go there.
Yeah.
That one episode though, when they brought out somebody played Alec Guinness as Obi-Wan, that episode just totally floored me. I love that episode so much. As soon as we got old Obi-Wan back, because I absolutely adore Obi-Wan, and to see him, it was almost like a missing scene from A New Hope.
Right? Wasn't it?
Yeah, I love that. So that episode is totally floored me. I love that episode.
Izzy, Sarah hadn't been on her show at that point. Izzy was, and she doesn't watch Rebels, but we showed her the scene where Obi-Wan just like Darth Maul, and she's like, "What?"
The one thing I liked about that was it has shown over time how much Obi-Wan had become a master to where now he can literally take you out in 3 strikes.
Done.
That's how much of a master, and that also kind of informs what his intentions are. If you watch him in A New Hope when he's fighting Vader, he obviously could have fought a lot harder with Vader if he wanted to. So that means he obviously was stalling. So I thought that episode was, I think, just amazing because it showed how far he come, and it showed what his intentions are in A New Hope.
Excellent. And with that right there, we've hit our time frame at 8:30, and we've gone over. So we're gonna have to call it a wrap. Trent, been a great guest. We appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
Yeah, we hope you had fun. We have fun every time we get together. That's what it's all about. We're regular fans, just talking Star Wars. You know what I mean? So we appreciate you coming by, sharing your artwork, sharing your thoughts, your theories, and thanks for taking that time because we know you're a busy man.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So we just want to, we appreciate everybody else out there watching, episode 17, Friday the 13th, lucky day, right?
Oh, yeah.
So for the council, I'm Lewis.
I'm Tim.
I'm Izzy.
I'm Sarah.
And this is Trent. And thanks again for coming.
We already canceled.
The council has spoken.
Oh my God.